What's old is new again. And that's never more true than a game like Cuphead, where you see things from the 1930s brought to life. So how do we get from that 1930s cartoon to a video game? Where do we get it to be so authentic to the work, yet recognized as something new? And why do we like it so much? It comes down to something that Austin Kleon coined in his book, A Genealogy of Ideas, which, oddly enough, is stolen from other people. Much like most things we do creatively, we tend to like to call it a genealogy of creativity, though. Well, what is that? Well, much like any other family tree, this genealogy of ideas or creativity is where you trace your influences, the things you love, the things you're inspired by, and find what inspired them and what inspired those people. And as far as you can go up that tree to the source. And from that point, you get to learn at the most purest form how to make the work you want to do. Because when you see the things you love, you're only seeing a small part of what that influence was. But maybe you'll be shaped even more differently. If you already love that one nugget and that small piece, what can it be for you when you go to the source and see it at its widest spread?
It's just like a Wikipedia page, though, right? The Wikipedia page is the summary of the topic you're looking at, but at the bottom is the footnotes of all the references, all the sources that gave the information to be able to fill up that page. And so it should be for the work that we want to do is what is the lineage? What are the people, the artists, the creators that inspire us, that move us to want to create work that's like them? And then start playing detective, right? Is dig into their work and what inspires them. I love to look at certain illustrators and just break down the piece to look at one piece and start seeing, okay, what pieces of art were they looking at when they drew this? And it's from there you can start looking at those creators, those artists, and you start digging down and you start uncovering all of this wealth of knowledge and inspiration that by just looking at the original source, you wouldn't have acquired unless you dug deeper.
Well, and I think this goes even further. It's falling in love not just with the work and the work that was inspired by there, but the creators themselves. There's so much you can learn from that creator. Neil Gaiman, bestseller at children's books, novels, comic books, showrunner for popular TV shows, does so many things. But what I love more than any one piece of his work is the man himself. What he stands for, his thought process. I've learned more from him listening to him speak, reading what he's written, in terms of talking about creativity than actually trying to pull from the work itself. I get to learn a lot about his genealogy of ideas, his thought process, and how that influences me. What I want to take from that versus what doesn't fit my values. And I think that's the thing, is what do we value? There's not probably any one creator that does everything 100% the way we want. So why would we try so hard to copy them 100%?
Well, and part of that is also recognizing that we really become children of those who influence us. Just like a parent-child relationship, you have a mother and a father who then create a biological child, and what you have is still a unique child, but they're a conglomeration of two different unique genetic pools into a new distinct human. No one's going to say that child is not unique. No one's going to say that child is a derivative. They're unique in their own way. And so that's the same thing with our art. Is we have to understand who are our parents, our proverbial parents for those who inspire us and influence our own creative genetics.
Well, and that's just it. There is nothing original under the sun. Not a thing. Anything you think is original is because you don't know where the influences came from. Period. End of discussion. Don't even want to hear the argument because it doesn't matter. There's nothing original. What is true is that combination, that genetic blend of what makes you unique, what makes things, now, nothing is original, but there are plenty of things that are unique because it's the combination of those unoriginal things originally within one space. So your love of these different things, your love of comics, movies, the things that aren't even creative, just out in the world, nature, taking a walk and enjoying the park, those moments, those conversations you hear, all those things can be put together and shape an experience that's uniquely you. That's where the originality, that belief in what's original comes.
Yeah, and that's just like MDHR, is their game wasn't original, but it was unique because they delivered it in a new way. And even to that point, it's even what we're doing right now. All the principles that we're preaching, the things we're saying, they're not just some unique original ideas that have come from out of nowhere. We've drawn from creators from all different types of fields, seeing what we've liked over here, put them together, and then imbued them with our own voice, our own ideas, and now delivering them to you. So what we're doing isn't original, but we're doing it in a unique way.
Think of it like a recipe where all the ingredients are the things that have inspired you and driven you, the things you love. A little sprinkle of this comic book, a few pounds of that. The ratios can be disproportionate because there's things you love more or you feel they apply. It's the uniqueness of, well, even when you're shaping a recipe, how many times have you cooked the same meal but made it taste different because you've learned, you've refined. You decided, hey, a little too heavy on the Neil Gaiman. No matter how much you love it, not everyone's going to digest that the same. But you thought that maybe a little Brene Brown, a little fiction and nonfiction mixed in is great. A little Dr. Seuss for a little whimsy. The things that inspire you, and you get to shape a narrative around them that is unique and getting a flavor that's all yours. And that's something that's so great about when you actually take positive control, is because if you're not being aware of where your inspirations come from, again, you don't know why you're successful. You don't know how you got there. And when you look at your audience, you start to see who shows up and what they love, and you kind of blend what they want and what you want. You have a better understanding how to keep delivering that because you know where it came from. You're not just pulling it out of just being a copy of a copy. Because when you copy something and you keep copying an original over and over again, what happens is it's faded and cracked and not nearly at the same level. Is that who you want to be? Do you want to be a copy, or do you want to be something that is pure and uniquely made, the first of its kind, despite having influences that might have been long-standing?
Right. So the answer is no. But so I'm still stuck on the chef analogy. I thought that was such a really brilliant way to describe what is old is new again. It's when you are a true master chef, you know how to play in the kitchen. You know how to put flavors together that other people wouldn't have thought of. Have all this knowledge base that you can pull together and put it in your dish. But beyond that is what you kind of started talking about, is when you also know who you're delivering that dish to. Not only can you put in your own palate in that dish, you can put in the palate of those who you know you're serving. Because when you start becoming intimate with your audience and knowing the things that they like, you can then better serve what meets their taste profile and really resonate and really connect with them. And it all comes to understanding those different influences and being able to put them together in a new way.
When you think of passion, do you want to be completely full-hearted in this, or do you want to have half-hearted attempts? Do you want to have interactions with those who follow you or customers of you where you feel like you're having to meet them in the middle because you're not quite there? You're going through the motions because it isn't what you want, and you're doing that to your dreams. Or do you want to be the person who actually loves it so much that you're just like, you're the person who people have to walk away from because you're all too willing to chat their ear up about how much you love this and how much you did this? I think it's interesting. We saw recently an article about a man in Austin, Texas, who created a non-alcoholic bar, and his reasoning was so driven by his influences of being around people who don't drink or at all, or people who are coming off of being alcoholics who want to still have social experiences that are not driven by alcohol or an environment that has it. He has a true passion. It's not even something that is built into creativity in the core of writing books or things, but it's incredibly creative to see there is a problem in the design of it all that he wanted to solve, and creatively attending to it by creating a unique situation, creating a place for people to spend time together, to have drinks, alcoholic or not remotely original. But looking at the ability to create something in a space where there's a void, going against the grain, is why he's going to be successful.
And that's the real key point of originality versus uniqueness. Right. Nothing's truly original, but simply by combining really two things together, a bar setting and non-alcoholic drinks, putting them together, he's created something that no one has really ever seen before. And by that alone, it's going to get attention and people are going to be curious and want to interact with it. So the goal isn't to truly aspire to be original. It's really to know where you come from, who influences you. And then it's how can I then imbue that passion that I already have for this creator or for this story and spin it, put it on its head, add something new to it, add something new to that narrative, and then serve that up to the world.
One, what we're getting at also is saturation. Is when you're you and you're doing it in a way where you're aware of what makes you unique, despite none of us being original, you're able to do something where you have an audience that's finding you at your purest form. We mentioned that example. How many bars are there, especially in Austin, Texas, off of 6th Street area, that have existed? There are so many that goes beyond counting, and yet how many places in nightlife can you actually have a social interaction? He found that if he opened up a bar, maybe he wanted to open up a nightlife place. And when he looked at that too, it's if you're just talking pragmatic business, he's not competing against them the same way. He's competing against people who want to be out, but not in that same way, or have an alternative versus going and being another bar and having a high likelihood, like any other restaurant, bar, other kind of facility like that, of failing. So if you're looking at a YouTuber or a fashion blogger or any other thing, and you're trying to copy them exactly, they already occupy that space. They've already made it. You're just coming there encroaching on trying to eat their scraps. And is that what you want? Do you want to subsist on scraps, or do you want to create something that's your own feast? Because your audience is in it because they want the way you deliver it, the way it comes from you, and the way that it's authentically yours.
And that's part of what MDHR did. Is while the bullet hell type genre, I wouldn't say is overly saturated. It's been done. It's pretty familiar to everyone. There's what's new in that genre, right? And here, what they did is they added a truly unique art style that people haven't seen in video games before, and embedded it with that type of play style. And so what was old is now new again. And so they're able to carve their own space in that area where if let's say they went 8-bit graphic, they'd be like most other games. They'd be like the very games that they reference of Contra and other old NES games like that. And beyond that, we look at Robert Kirkman. He really paved the way for the zombie genre to be mainstream. Not because zombies had never been done before, but because he spun it in a new way. He talked more about the human emotions and the human side of things, and how the humans are really truly the monsters and the villains in his story. And yet now what we're seeing with zombies is there's coming a saturation point, right? Mm-hmm. We've all seen it. We're all tired of it. But what's going to be the next thing where someone takes something that's familiar, brings something that's unfamiliar, and creates something truly unique?
Robert Kirkman grabbed something from George Romero, who had actually had great zombie works, but even then they were never like the biggest blockbuster hits. It was always something that outside the mainstream, like a lot of horror. But what we see is Robert Kirkman capitalized on his own unique take because of his inspirations from other pieces of work. So again, with the saturation point, where can you find a place? There's a million people literally talking about any number of things on YouTube. Where's your way of being different? If you're trying to be in the marketplace, you're an entrepreneur. What makes you different than the other plumber, handyman? Are you somebody who's really engaged on social media, finding a way to really have a dialogue with your client? Because maybe that's not something that's happening. Haley Cakes out of Austin is a great example of this. It's a bakery that has almost 300,000-ish Instagram followers who post and shares that experience and the humor behind their cookies and cakes and things like that. It's a bakery. At that bare level, bakeries have existed forever. There's so many of them in any given metropolitan area. Even in a little small town, you have a couple. Yeah. Yet, here they are with a large audience engaged with them. Not only are they getting the foot traffic for their business, but additionally, they're getting other abilities to develop new customers who would come in from other places as a point of tourism. They're being able to monetize off that engagement otherwise. There's just so much more that they've given themselves a power to leverage because they were willing to take the things they love and share them and do it in a way that isn't normally done.
So don't get hung up on trying to create something truly original. Accept that there's nothing new under the sun. Instead, focus on those things that really bring out the passion in you, the things that light you up, and figure out all the things that you love about them. What do you love about this? What do you love about that? And then also, what do you not like? And then bring that all together and imbue your work with that passion, that knowledge base, and create something truly unique.
Absolutely. Because in the end, the things that you're passionate about, whether they be a thing or a person who made those things, those are your mentors. Those are your teachers. Much like going to a college class, this is what has shaped the education of your life to make you who you are. And in the end, that's what your audience wants. They want you. And the closer you can be to being that person, the faster you are to finding the right audience.